Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Grass Tubular Modelers. I'm Dave Forrest with my good friend
Harvey Lowe.
And in today's episode, we're going to continue on with the 109K, the Eduard 109K that I have here. We're going to do some painting and do some camouflaging and some masking. I'll show you guys how to do that. But in the future episode, Harvey's going to talk about this thing here.
It's a thing? You call this a thing?
Yeah, it's Italian. I can tell that. It's got 3 engines. I can tell that. But I don't really recognize. It almost looks like a fantasy type of aircraft. It's got this type of like a sports car type of aircraft. It's a beautiful looking aircraft.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this.
It's an old. I believe the company's called Model Resin Kits from the 90s. I'll get the name right in the actual episode. But it is a 172nd Z1015 Cont.
A Cont.
A Cont. C-A. There's an Italian name for it. I'm going to butcher it. But it was a...
Is Cont like an abbreviation? Or
Cont is an abbreviation.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Italians built one of these, and I'm going to talk about this kit in an episode.
So just one?
Only one. They only made one. And if you're not interested in Cont episodes, that's okay, because I'm going to talk about how I put this thing together from a hunk of resin.
So this is all resin.
It's all resin, yeah. And it's not great resin. So.
And it's quite So I did have a chance to pick this model up off camera, and it is quite heavy.
Yes.
Very heavy.
Yes. So watch out for that episode. It'll be less on the details and history of the aircraft, and more on how do you make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look forward to that. There'll be lots to learn there, like how do you reinforce? Because it's heavy.
Yeah, it's
so
heavy.
How do you reinforce it so it stays together? It doesn't break. It doesn't. You can handle it. So
and I know that resin's not for everyone, and people love to build those. That's okay too.
It's this guy. Resin is not for me. I admit you're a braver man than I am, Mark. But so look forward to getting into the details of that. So for this episode, we'll kind of get everything set up. We'll get the airbrush going. I'll show you how I did some of the masking for the scalloping on the wings here, and then we'll move on. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. Okay, so we're going to get right into painting this, but before we do that, I did want to talk a little bit about masking. On this model here, you'll see the masking kind of serves a couple of different purposes. So one is just to protect areas of the model that I don't want to get paint on, that are already painted. And you don't need a lot of finesse for that. You can just see, and I'm just using this painter's tape. This frog tape, which is it's like the Tamiya. It's like the Tamiya tape, but it's a lot cheaper.
That?
You get that at like Home Depot, the hardware stores, right? So you just look for the frog tape. It comes in a plastic container, and it's.
But that looks almost like Tamiya tape.
Yeah, it is. The only thing is, it's a little bit stickier, so you might want to take the tack off. But I just put it on the back of my hand a couple of times, and that kind of the oils from my skin.
Dave, honestly, I've never seen that. I mean, that's one good thing about this channel. Like, we do everything ad lib. I've never seen that.
I'm sure I told you about this.
No, you never share your techniques with me because you always want to beat me.
I think I showed you one of these once.
Okay, well, you always, well.
I don't know, probably not. But anyway, so it's great. So instead of, because the Tamiya tape is very convenient and it comes in the smaller, thinner sizes, but you can just cut this to size. True. Or if you're just using it to, and I just like using this over regular masking tape, because the regular masking tape is quite tacky, and it can pull paint off. So with this, it's a little bit less tacky. It's a finer edge to it.
And look how much you get.
And you get a lot of it for. I mean, this was like $10.
Wow.
At the time, so it's worth thinking about. And then so that's one type. The other type is for the scalloping. So late war Luftwaffe aircraft had the scalloping on the wings. So where they would, and the reason for this, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe coming in head on, it masked the. I don't know. I'm not sure why. If anybody knows in the comments, I'd love to understand it. I should probably do some more research. But you have 2 options. You can make your own, which I did, or you can cheat, which I also did, and you can buy pre-made masks. So Eduard has a bunch of pre-made masks for camo for different types of aircraft. So depending on the factory that the Messerschmitt came out of, or the plane in question came out of from a Luftwaffe standpoint, it would have a different camo pattern. So your Regensburg MTT would have a different camouflage pattern from your W and F would have a different from etc. Right, so you can buy specific sets from Eduard. This is for 109G MTT. I think Regensburg. This comes out of Regensburg. So there's different. So you got to do your research on your topic.
I don't know if I want to build a 109. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, it's a whole subculture into itself. And to be fair, like for this kit here, this 109K, like I'm just following, like I'm doing the first option out of the box here with, and the reason why I did it was a couple of things. So one is it's got different camo. It's got the RLM 74, 75 on the wings, and the 82 and 83 on the fuselage, and that's a bit. I think that's a bit controversial because this is kind of based on recent information. Previously, I think everything was 82 and 83, but now they found more research that said that the wings might be a bit different, which kind of makes sense because at the end of the war they were just trying to cobble things together.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then I like the red landing gear because of the type of fuel that's used. So they actually painted the landing gear red so the crews would know.
Know that.
Yeah. So it's it's a little bit interesting. I haven't yet done any of the modeling on the side yet. It's still pretty clean, so I'll do that off camera. That's really easy to do. But I did want to focus this episode on masking. So getting back to the scalloping, so you can either cheat, which I did, and I'll use this on a future kit. I didn't use it on this, where you can it'll give you the scalloping and give you all of the masks. I do like to get a bit of a feathered edge. So if you put the mask right on the aircraft itself, or straight onto the kit, it'll give you a very hard edge. Yeah. And sometimes that's appropriate.
Yep.
And other times it's maybe not appropriate. I like to have a bit of a feathered edge.
Me too.
And the way to do now, I didn't do that with scalloping, but I will do that with the camo on the wings. And the way to do that is just to lift the mask a little bit. And so what I do is I use this white tack. So you can see here, so I did the other wing off camera. And what I do is I just create these long strips, rolls of white tack. And all I do, like, I'll just bundle it up here, and then I'll just kind of roll it flat. And just pull it apart.
That's the tack you get at any stationery store, like blue tack, white tack.
I like the white tack, because the white tack seems to leave a little bit less residue. Maybe it's just the blue tack I was using previously, but so I'll just roll out a little, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I mean, you're not. Now, again, I'm just trying to mimic the camouflage pattern here. So I'm just looking at. I'm doing this wing here, so I need to mask off. What I did is I painted the first color I put on was the dominant color on the wing. So on this other side here, I did the light gray first, and then I masked. And then I did the dark gray. On this wing, because the dark gray is the prominent color, I painted that first, just loosely, right? And then so I oversprayed it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask here that'll protect the gray,
right?
So I can get at the light gray spots.
So the gray would be the base coat in real life.
No, I don't know, not necessarily. I'm not sure how they did it. That's a good question. I don't know for sure. My guess. So here, let's start with this. Now I got to be careful because I got this built-in.
So that tape there is from the cheating. Edward?
No, actually, sorry. Let me go back to that. I'm kind of all over the place. So what I did is I just took. So I cut it myself, right? So what I do is I just take a piece of tape. That's the good thing about this tape too, is because it's cheaper. You don't mind experimenting with it a bit, and I just put it down here. Like so, right? So I just tape it down. And let's get this out of the way for a sec. And then what I do is I have this squiggle rotating cutter.
Where'd you get that?
Actually, I got that at Dave's Hornet Hobbies way back. He bought some in, but you can get these at
I think they're on Amazon.
You get them on Amazon. You can go to like a scrapbook store, or craft store.
Yeah,
Michael's might
Michael's and Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby probably has them.
Okay.
So what it does is it allows you to kind of create an irregular pattern. So what I do now, it took me a while to get a pattern that I felt was sufficient, and I looked at this to give me a guide on how deep and shallow the scallops.
They would have been done by hand in real life, would they not? So in other words, these are all uneven. They're not.
They're certainly uneven,
Okay.
but my guess is maybe they probably were some guy with a.
Yeah.
It was just kind of going up and spraying.
Yeah, because you couldn't use how you have those circular hole punches that you can buy at Hobby Lobby and Michael's, but I think they'd be too symmetrical.
Yeah, I think this is the best way of doing it.
Okay.
Or if you're going to do it yourself, I think. So all I do is I just take this and I just.
That's pretty cool.
Right, just go like
Never thought
this.
of that.
Now it took me a while, this isn't going to be great. You're going to see. So as I rip the tape up here, you're going to see how terrible this is.
Well, it's giving you the idea.
Right. So
Yeah.
here's the. Now it took me like a lot of tries.
Okay.
to get this properly, right? So it does take a bit of practice, but you do get there with it, and it's a great way of mimicking that.
By the way, a side topic, if you're cutting tape like that for, let's say you're doing D-Day stripes, we're talking about masking. I know it's off topic, but if you happen to rip the tape, sometimes that's a good thing. Because if you were doing the D-Day stripes, you can see some of them were uneven. So what I do is I just rip it, and then you use the rough edge as your mask rather than a clean cut.
You could, yeah, because
right?
you see some some of the pictures for D-Day stripes. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
They look straight,
No.
as if, and then others are like done by hand.
Yep.
Like there's a wide variety. Mm-hmm. Now aesthetically, I think I would do it. I would mask it and do it neat.
Yeah.
But maybe on a bigger scale, maybe on a 30-second scale.
Well,
having that. That more manual.
Yeah.
To it might, but that's just again personal.
Well,
choice, right?
you may recall when I did
do I
a
know?
132nd General Romer's Mustang.
Yes.
The general had said to me in an interview that he recalls his aircraft's D-Day stripes being put on by literally, I think he said a broom or something, and they were uneven.
Yeah, so like getting first-hand account.
Yeah,
like you can't.
You can't. They were not straight, he said, and he's got a pretty good memory.
Like that beats any social media opinion out there.
What's that?
Because if you put that on, let's say you put that on your Facebook page, and I think you probably did.
Yeah.
And somebody would say, no, that never happened.
True.
But you're talking to a guy who was there.
And
you're talking to an actual witness of history who put laid eyes on.
And that did happen, Dave.
Right?
That did happen. I mean, I know we're not on the topic, but when I did that masking, and I did it very rough, we presented the model, maybe a different episode, to the general at a Canadian Forces Base special event. And one of the crew chiefs who served in Afghanistan said, for once, somebody's weathered a model airplane to look dirty as they were. And things are uneven. So, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you can't beat that first-hand account.
Aircraft got dirty, Dave.
They did.
Yes. Oh, I see what you're doing. So you did the scallops first, and then you're doing the camouflage pattern.
Yeah. Now you'll notice that because there's slats on the wings, I'll do that off camera. So I'll just extend the scalloping here. So I only have to worry about. So for the purposes of what I'm doing on the main wing itself without the slat, I'm just doing up to here. Everything else doesn't matter. And you'll see from the picture that from the from the layout here, that the scalloping only goes to the end of the slat. So this part of the wing here doesn't have it. So it makes it easier. So all I'm doing now is I'm just kind of, while we were chatting, I'm just kind of laying out, this. Well, let me orient this the right way. So just to mimic this piece here, right? So I'm going to put some, now that I've got the boundaries laid out, I'm just going to take some tape.
Right. I do find that for me, masking takes a lot of time to do it right.
It does.
But then there's a nice feeling that when you peel that mask, whether it's a canopy or on the surface, isn't that great?
A nice feeling of mild terror.
Yeah, if you screwed it up, yeah. It's only a hobby.
It's only a hobby. So again, that's the nice thing about using this cheaper tape. Is that so I just put the tape just to make sure no overspray gets into the grade. So that's one section done. And then you're kind of on this wing here, like this what do you call this flap here was completely in the light gray.
Yeah.
So I just kind of make sure I expose that. So that's a nice way of So the next thing I got to do is just protect this piece here.
You know, while you're doing that, I have talked to some modelers who are really into the authenticity, and some of them even say they prefer the feathering, even though in real life, right? Like, I'm not an expert in it, but Battle of Britain, Hawker Hurricanes and Spitfires were pretty hard-edged, and likely with a brush.
Yeah, they put a mat down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they, brush
But,
maybe.
but whatever. But they're pretty hard. But I do kind of like that slightly feathered look. It's an art, right? So
Yeah, exactly. It's whatever.
yeah.
I mean, if getting complete historical accuracy is your jam, then that's how you go about it. If you just want something that looks good to your eye, then that's.
Well, here's a controversial statement I'll make. I don't think there's any model out there that is 100% true to, do you know what I mean? Every little nuts and bolts and everything. No.
You say that.
Nope.
Yeah, it's only normal.
It's just a hobby, guys.
It's just a hobby. So we keep telling ourselves.
Yeah. By the way, this white tack you're using and blue tack, I love it. It doesn't leave a mark, from what I've found. I think there's several brands out there. I know LePage makes some other brands that you can get, but they're really, really good. If you guys want to use it, the blue tack for me never leaves any marks. But I don't find that I can reuse it, right? When you spray over it, you throw it out.
No, I use it.
Do you really?
Yeah, I'm cheap.
Really?
Yeah.
I throw mine out. Maybe I shouldn't.
Now, over time, like the more paint
Yeah.
you get out of the tackiness goes, but you can get a few uses.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why you're always getting thirds in contest day. But hey, we're not going to.
Could be.
Yes.
So again, not perfect, but good enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that. So all I'm going to do now is just put some tape on here to protect the gray there, and we'll get the spraying. So this is,
You can also do this technique on 1/72nd. It's you just have to use smaller strips of tape.
Yeah, this will work.
The blue tack works on 72nd models too.
So I'm not going to bother because I'm just going to spray here.
Yeah.
So I've got my two sections done, and then now I've got to do the tailplane.
By the way, a little tip: if you find that sometimes you get a little overspray, and if you're really paranoid about it, sometimes I just cut a piece of paper, like yellow sticky, and I put it like up here so that there's no overspray at all. It's very fast to put that yellow sticky up there.
Yep.
Rather than correcting it.
You got it.
Just it's better to be safe. But Dave's a master airbrusher, so he doesn't make mistakes. From what he tells me.
I make mistakes all the time. Yeah.
Outside of that, how'd this kit go together?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
Except for me.
Hmm?
I mean, it's the first aircraft kit I've done in a while.
Well,
So certainly some learnings on this.
Mm-hmm.
But Edward finally got the. I keep talking about it, right? So the
yeah, notice the different color on the fuselage.
that's another just the different.
It's neat.
But the thing I like about they finally got it right with the K, is that the join for the wings that join to the fuselage on the bottom here, it actually goes up to a panel line.
Oh.
Whereas
really?
Before there would be they would do like this V thing.
I didn't know that.
And you have to fill it there's no panel line to me it does it with theirs.
So it's incorrect.
So it's because there's no panel line there. Like I said, well, there must be a panel line there. So I looked at all these references and drawings and blueprints and no panel line.
Really?
Why? Guys, the 109Gs are some of the best kits out there, except for that.
So are you saying that the Edward kit finally got it right?
Yeah, the last one in the series they finally got
the
it right.
K.
Yeah, the K.
What about their earlier?
Unless I'm missing some, maybe I'm wrong, but my research
Really?
indicates that there's no line there, so I don't know why so you got to fill it, and then there's rivet details around it. You got to. It's just I don't know. It's such a simple thing they could have done to fix it. Okay, so I'm just gonna mix my paint off camera here, and we'll get to spraying. Okay, so I've got my airbrush loaded here. I like to spray with lacquers. And the reason is just that it's a very durable finish. It's very predictable. It goes on nice and smooth. I just find that either the Tamiya or Mr. Hobby lacquers with the leveling thinner is...
You've given up on acrylic Tamiya.
Yeah.
Really?
Now, it's funny. It's yeah. Well, acrylic to me, if I need it, I can use it as
Yeah.
well, right? But it's kind of like it's like a kind of a 1B. This is 1A. Now I did look at I was at a Dailies yesterday, and they did have the new Atom paints. The new big Atom. So I was debating picking, but I said, do I really need to pick up another set of paints? Like,
Are they acrylics?
they are acrylics, so it's a nice thing. They don't stink, and they're supposed to spray very well, but. I don't know. I didn't feel like investing $65 in a set to test something out that I might not be happy.
Well, it's true. There's I find a lot of acrylic paints, AK, Tamiya, right? Mixing with this stuff, I find does help. But you're right. Lacquers are just that extra.
Well, but the attractiveness of it though is that you could spray it without the stink.
Yeah, and we're in a garage again, so
yeah, and we're not spraying a lot.
So
So in my workbooth, I have a
Don't
booth.
do this at
I
home,
vent it
kids.
outside. I wear a mask. So when you're spraying this stuff, it's not great. We're just doing so. Don't think you can spray this stuff without having.
And I can smell it now. So just be careful.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I find they go on smooth. They're a great finish. I do like to, even with this though, I do like to kind of polish the finishes a little bit.
With what?
Just with a polishing sponge, like a high grit.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Do you use a polishing compound like Tamiya?
No, I just to take the whatever roughness off, just to smooth it down. I did that. So off camera, I did a 190, an A7, the new Eduard 190 A7, and I polished everything all the way through. And when I finally got that gloss coat on, it was amazing.
Really, I should try that.
Yeah. So I just to buff, just to take the roughness out. Okay. It just helps when you put your gloss coat on, and you got to put your gloss coat on wet. Again, we'll talk about that when we do the deckling here. But let's get to spraying. So let's turn on our old compressor here. And so I'm just going to start with here. Now I've done some work in kind of like black basing and then kind of pre-shading with white the under. I'm going to lose a lot of that here. My mix of paint is about 60% thinner, 40% thin, paint roughly. So I like to spray it nice and thin. And I'm just spraying at about 12 to 15 psi. And I'm just using my Revolution here, my 0.3 millimeter needle.
Love that brush.
Yeah, it's great. So I'm just gonna spray and just build up the color. And see, I'm not spraying into the mask. I'm trying to spray so that you get that feather. If you spray into it, you're gonna get a harder edge as opposed to if you. And I'm just, let's say the nice thing about doing all the work on the pre-shading is that you just kind of build it up.
I find my biggest problem, even though I've been modeling for a while, is to cover up my modulation.
Yeah, I'm going to cover most. I mean, I covered most of it up on the other way.
If you are weathering it with washes, try to ease up and allow a little more contrast. I keep saying that, but I make that same mistake.
So I'm going to.
So what color are you using there?
So that's the RLM. What was that 74, 75? The lighter one, which is the. So it's Mr. Hobby 37 RLM 75, which is the gray violet. So there, so I can just see a little bit of the.
Nice.
So I'm going to leave that. I'm good. I'm happy with that. So now I'll move on to the other section.
Very nice.
And I'll just kind of build it up.
And notice you're squiggling the brush so that it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so you're not staying on any one spot.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I cover this off here. There we go. So again, never start spraying directly on them. Always spray off of it first.
True. Yeah, I start spraying, like I see you're spraying on what is it, paper towel. I even sometimes spray in the air before I reach the surface, because you never do.
Sorry, I just noticed I left one of the flaps uncovered.
Oh, that's it. We're done. Throw it out.
I think I did.
Throw out the model.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I would do what Dave's doing now. Just apply as much mask on the other surface that's perpendicular to the wing, because you see a lot of kick up from the overspray. It could come back and hit the fuselage. So
Yeah, exactly.
make sure it's covered. It's better to cover more.
Yep. I mean, you can always go back and fix it, but if you don't have to,
yeah.
Like why bother?
Yeah.
So then just focusing on this flap. And again, just trying to... Now, I'll probably go back and do some post-modulation on this.
Yeah, I would do too.
Right?
Yeah, I usually do that.
Just because you cover up a lot of the effect. It's a lot easier to do on a single color camo.
It is. Oh, it is.
Right?
It is.
I mean, it's just... Like I have a 0 and I have a Thunderbolt that I want to do.
Because if you do the modulation on one color here and the other, it's a different color, you got to make sure that the modulation scale is consistent, right?
Correct, yeah.
It's harder. It's harder. And if you use like something like an undercoat modulation, you've got a multi-pattern. What I usually do is I do this technique as opposed to doing one color and covering everything, do another color. Do you know what I mean? Because you're just gonna lose the modulation on that first color.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do them separately.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
And yes, aircraft did get modulated when you see all those photos. The colors do.
Yeah, some more than
change.
others, but that
Yes.
I mean, going back to our earlier conversation, nothing beats a photo.
No, and,
Right?
and some people would argue that color photos are not correct in their color, but you can still gain a certain conclusion on the contrast of black and white. You can tell that the color is not consistently the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I think we're seeing more and more aircraft being weathered that way, which I think they should be.
Well, yeah, and
If they were like that.
if they were like that,
Yeah.
And I think and again, it's all about personal taste
Yes.
and what you like. But I personally, I like subjects that are weathered.
Yeah.
Because it gives them a depth. I'm just going to do this tail plane.
And do you remember the 90s? What was big back then when everybody did those very thick recessed panel lines in black ink? And I think that slowly aircraft modelers are beginning to realize, gee, I gotta weather this thing something. And that if you leave it too clean, I don't know. I think it's a bit of accurate. Maybe we'll do a separate issue on that, the controversies of weathering aircraft.
Yeah, you could do a whole,
because
thesis on that.
some judges like clean aircraft, and I'm thinking, well, if they got weather, you gotta weather it. It's just as much in the accuracy as.
I like anything, but you can over weather. I've seen some aircraft that are over
You
weathered
can
and it doesn't look
You can.
doesn't look great either.
Oh.
But it's that fine. Like I think with armor you can you have a broader spectrum to work with. With aircraft you're a little bit narrower.
Well, we never covered my sluice on this episode, but it's in scale aircraft modeling in the last 2 episodes, and I intentionally over-weathered it, as the pictures show it over-weathered, and we've had several researchers say that likely those aircraft were painted just before Pearl Harbor, thinned with whatever they had, could even be seawater, and they flaked, and they have photos to show it. So you basically, like you said, Dave, based on those photos.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're going back, and just as I, it's always good to rotate it in the light. You get different views.
Yeah.
And it's seeing it's a little bit light here, but I can tell pretty much I've lost most of the underlying modulation.
I always make that mistake.
So there's that. But yeah, we're done. So that.
Now, if you're gonna post modulate, you just leave that on. Yes, that masking on.
No.
Oh, you
No,
just
take
go
it off.
back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just take it off. I mean, I might. Yeah, I would. Yeah, just because you're going so close.
Yeah.
Right. I would just take it off. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that right now? Why don't we just put a little bit of white?
Ooh, he's getting risky in there.
So I got some gloss white
Mm-hmm.
here that I'm using. And the only reason why I'm using gloss white is just to have a smoother finish.
Yeah, I find that I do that too sometimes. I mix a bit of gloss in with my flat colors.
So all I'm going to do is just mix this right in here. Now I just have a tiny bit. So even that little bit of white,
Yeah, you have a good eye for that.
is going to lighten up. I might add a drop of just like that.
I remember back in the day, nobody modulated. Nobody. Even the 90s, I don't think people were into modulating.
No, it's one of those.
Yeah.
It's one of those techniques that has garnered.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a recent evolution.
Yeah, but you're getting better quality pictures, more analysis of photos of aircraft in real life, and they did. Now there's an argument whether recessed panel lines, were dark like that, but I've seen photos of them like that too. So.
Okay, so I let me just blow out the. Make sure we got the lighter color, which we do. So I'm just going to go very.
I can see it. I can see it right away. Yes. And that's why you can see Dave has taken his airbrush off the surface, because keeping it on might get a couple of air pressure or splatter.
Yeah, I think.
I'd be curious, guys, in the comments, if you guys do this technique, whether you have a single or double action airbrush. I know some guys do masterful work with single action. I just prefer the double action.
All I'm doing is just spraying the center.
Yep.
The nice thing about the Eduard kits is there's a lot of riveting on it, so you've got a lot of little panels to work with. So all I'm doing is just very slightly, just building up. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Like less is more in this case, right?
Yeah.
So I got a nice big panel here.
Are you going to put a wash over that, or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to try and pull up the rivet detail a little bit.
Yeah. So again, you want to have some contrast, right? Otherwise, when you have so little, then the wash will kill it.
But that's the thing, so I'll apply the wash, like normally on an armor model, I'll apply the wash right on the paint, which is flat or semi, eggshell.
Okay.
Here, it's always gloss.
Yes, right.
So that way
True.
It doesn't affect, like in the same way that it would darken, it doesn't affect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. If you apply apparently, the logical process is you apply washes over a gloss finish, but if you do that, it will only go in the recesses. Semi-gloss will make it a little more like a filtered effect. And flat means you're just changing the color. So always think about your gloss and matte and semi-matte coats.
So I'm just holding it away so you can kind of see. Yeah, there's some,
something
there's
there.
enough there.
Okay.
It's very subtle though. I mean, you probably like seeing it on camera might even be a bit of a challenge, and that's how light I like to go with this. And that's enough.
Yep.
Now I said that normally I would do this without the masks. Mm-hmm. So let's go on this wing here. So I'll start doing.
Without a mask.
Yeah, because it's just a little bit. You're just doing it very lightly.
I can see it.
Now, the safer thing to do would be to do it while the masks are on, to your earlier point.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you get comfortable with the airbrush.
And to wear a mask while you're doing it.
And to wear them, yeah. That's the bigger issue, I think.
That's the other new trend in this stuff. I found that 10, 15 years ago, people were maybe they didn't have access to the spinner, but they weren't mixing acrylics with synthetic lacquers.
So sorry, I'm just holding it away so I can see it, but
Yeah.
they can see already.
See a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. And then, and if you wanted to blend it a bit, you could blend it a bit. Right? Or if you find that if you've done too much, you can just go back with a thin glaze of the original color.
True,
right?
true. You refilter it back.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just going to I'll just do this one thing here, and then we'll stop and pull the masks off so you can see just a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's nice. You can see
just
even with this light here.
Yeah, just a bit of a variation. Right? So all you need, and just a drop of lighter, like a lighter. You can use like a lighter white or even like a buff to give it a bit of a warmer thing. But on the grays, I find the white.
I think so. On the greens, you can use yellow too.
You could use yellow, yeah.
So would you modulate the green there as well? Or?
Oh yeah. Okay. If I do this, I'll do this. I'll also do the green off camera. And you don't have to do a lot, just to give it, enough, like just a few.
There's a nice eye pleasing.
Yeah, done. Right, just a little bit.
I always say that that you're.
See, I did too much there.
Where?
See, right there.
Oh yeah.
I sprayed too much.
Yeah, that's because you're an amateur.
I'm an amateur, so I'll let that dry, let that settle in, and then.
I find some people may ask why you do this. I find one of the outcome indicators of the success as a modeler is how long you have your audience's eye look at your models.
Exactly right.
There's so many things you're looking at, and then you've succeeded in something.
So there, let it settle.
Yeah.
And and then came back and it's like
it's back to normal.
It's fixed, more or less. So there you go.
Nice.
So let's park that. Let's turn this compressor off. Now let's start pulling back the paint. Now normally the other thing too, I would have a glove.
Yes.
Like a plastic glove on his hand. Just pull off.
But I must say this step that you're doing now is for me the most satisfying. I just love ripping off masking.
That's pretty good. All right. I'm just gonna be careful. I'm surprised. I'm amazed that haven't broken this off. Now, having said that, I'll probably break it off.
Yeah. By the way, I do find when I add pitot tubes and I always bust them off.
Yeah.
So try to put them on last.
Good. So let's pull all this stuff off.
Especially those Italian aircraft with a lot of those.
And the other thing too, I'll do is I'll reuse sections of tape.
Really?
Yeah. I'll just be careful. I should have maybe taken this tack off for this a bit more. And the other nice thing about working with lacquers is they are so durable. They are indestructible.
But again, reminder viewers that if you're doing a lot of masking like that, make sure you've got a good primer on there for the paint.
Look at the scalp.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
Huh.
Not bad at all.
Yes.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Right. And this is just more to protect. So, yeah. So coming along.
Mm-hmm.
Coming along. And you got to be careful because there's all these.
Yeah.
These little aerial thing there. And that's a technical term for it, the aerial thingy. Voila.
Et voila.
Now I might, because I'm going to go back and kind of lighten these up. I might leave these strips in place just to protect the fuselage.
Right.
But you can see, it's an interesting subject,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you have, the green and the brown on the fuselage, and then you have the two grays on the wings. That's a nice.
I also noticed that you make sure that those clear parts are masked because any little overspray will just muck up your clear parts. So either leave them off or mask them entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
Any little bit that you can't see, there it is on the clear parts.
Now for this one, I did interior masks on as well. So I did that and then took them off because you can't.
Yep.
And the other thing is I put, I don't know if you can see it here, but I put in a couple of just thin stretch spruikies for the grab handles on the inside.
Yes.
So you have to take the masks off before you put those things on. So it's that sequencing of things. How do you make it the most convenient for you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's our
there you go.
Yeah, so that's our episode for today. So next time around, we'll focus on the decaling, and I'll talk a little bit about the gloss coat maybe show how to spray
buff
that.
it or
Yeah, we'll do
whatever.
maybe a little
That's
bit
good.
of that, but it'll be glossing and decaling, and then on to the fun parts, which is the weathering.
Great.
So until next time, take care, everyone. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
joining us. Bye bye.